Great. Well, it's 10:31, so good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Amanda Lucy, and I am the CEO and owner of the partnership. We are the oldest privately held marketing and PR agency in Atlanta, and today I'm really proud to have with us Michael Palma. Mike has been a friend of the partnership for over a decade. He's worked with us on acquiring talent and worked with us on placing us at places to work in lots of different types of work, but branding is one of the things that we do. And today we're going to be talking about brand positioning and branding. And Mike, I just wanted you to be able to introduce yourself to everyone.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm so excited and thrilled to be with you. This is awesome. The partnership is one of my favorite agencies, not just in Atlanta. You've been around almost longer than I have, so you make me feel so young, as Frank Sinatra said. You know, the Palma Group is me. I've been a headhunter now before the word headhunter was coined, 1989. I used to be a college basketball coach, and I transferred my recruiting skills to advertising agencies and marketing companies. And we do two things at the Palma Group, and that's headhunting and new business consulting for marketing firms and ad agencies. And I have a third division now that just turned 10 years old called Creative Agency Search. And that's not just me. I'm adding associates and partners, and we work with brands to run their agency reviews and help them find new creative and marketing resources. So three things we do, and we don't do any of them very well. No, I'm just kidding. We are very diversified in our services. And again, thanks for letting me plug my businesses, Amanda.
Absolutely. We've benefited from your talent and your team, so thank you. And today we're talking about brand positioning. And as we know, we're in unprecedented times. People are bombarded with over 10,000 brand messages a day. And it's interesting, now we have students, virtual learning, they're online, parents are helping them. We have more people buying groceries online, shopping online, and we really are living in a digital time where there's so many brand messages and people are being bombarded with information. So Mike, what have you seen during this pandemic as far as companies and their brand position? And is it giving them an opportunity to kind of relook at themselves? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I mean, this is 6 months, right? I heard a funny line the other day. I can't believe it's September. March seemed like it was 15 years ago. And we're 6 months into this nasty pandemic era, and things have changed, as Bob Dylan said. I think every brand is in the process of repositioning themselves moving forward. And if they're not, they will be left behind. There's a new world, and if you're not relevant to that world, you'll be considered tone deaf. I mean, it doesn't take much. Just turn on the TV and you can see the brands that are serious about repurposing and repositioning themselves moving forward. And then you can see the ones that are tone deaf, where they act as if, nothing's changed in the last 6 months, that you can just go to the buffet, Well, I saw one the other day, it's the Cheers theme song, where everybody knows your name. I mean, we're not there yet. And one of the offerings of the new Creative Agency Search is getting your brand house together, getting your new brand built, or renovating your own old brand to be relevant to the new world. We all have our houses and we renovate them to the new changing times. I think brands are the same way, that they have to change their actual architecture moving forward. Or they're going to be left behind. They have to adapt. It's Darwinism at its most precarious. And it's exciting. I mean, I don't look at any glasses, half full, or I'm not a doom and gloomer. I've smiled throughout this thing, and I think it's an exciting time if you're a marketer to reposition your brand And I think agencies like the partnership are going to really benefit and I don't mean to disparage anybody, but I think the big global monolithic omnicom, corporate agencies, they're going to struggle a little bit in the near term, in the next few years. I think the keys to the kingdom, Amanda, will be the agile, the value-driven. I think the mid-sized independent agencies are in for a good run moving forward. So that's the good news.
That's great news. Love hearing that. So when you're talking about the brand position and kind of reevaluating what the next year looks like, let's say, what kind of things need to be in the brand toolkit, in that toolbox? I mean, what
good. I think the world's changed. We used to read, the written word used to be important. I'm an English major. I taught high school English. I read, but a lot of people don't anymore. I think we've become a very visually driven world. And so I think the two most important assets in your toolbox are infographics and videos. I think we're a totally visual world now. Hey, I buy products based on the packaging. Tissue paper is tissue paper. Kleenex is Kleenex. Dixie cups and plates are Dixie cups and plates. But I kind of buy the cool looking stuff, or, how it matches up with my dining room. And I think brands are the same way. It's as much about how you look and appear as to what you are. But we'll talk a lot about what you are and why you are in a little bit.
I'm a small business owner. You're a small business owner. We have some small business owners on the line. Is this the time where, when they're looking at their brand, is it a good time for them to just reevaluate their entire business strategy?
Yes. And, I'm not an expert at anything. I'm a new business strategy person. I'm about the hunt. I'm about selling. It's not very popular. No one grows up and they say they want to be a salesperson. They say, I want to, play center field for the Yankees. But,
sure.
But I'm not, I think it's time for everybody to reevaluate how they're selling their services, especially service industries. But even, I'm running a review for a hot dog company right now, and they're reevaluating how they do it. So it's not just business services. It's also products, consumer packaged goods, beverages. There's a new world out there, and it's exciting to me. It's time for branders to brand. It's time, there's an old saying, let the painter paint. It's time for branders to brand now, and it's time for marketers to market and creative people to create, and it's exciting.
And how do we identify an ownable position, right? Because you really have to have some stake and differentiate yourself.
We're going to fly through a deck in a little bit, but I think, who are you? What makes you different? And what does that mean to your prospect and clients? At Coca-Cola, when I ran reviews for Coca-Cola Company a couple years ago, we used to say, what makes you different, better, and special? You can't really go wrong. Jim Collins in Good to Great said, what are you passionate about? What can you be the best in the world at? And where do you make your money? I don't care how you arrange your hedgehog or your Venn diagram. There's the three circles and the one in the middle is your position. But any one of those three formulas will work. Who are you? What makes you different? And what does that mean to your prospect? What makes you different, better, and special?
And Mike led us through this exercise recently at the partnership, and it's been fantastic because we really kind of boiled down to who we are. And, we're an extension of our partners' marketing teams.
Right.
We are an extension of them. And whether they only have one person on the marketing team or they have a whole suite of marketing communications experts and professionals, we are working very closely in identifying solutions for them. So it was a really great exercise for us to go through, and we're working on our brand positioning and kind of rebranding ourselves during this pandemic too.
Well, that's good. And, a lot of people ask me, Mike, that sounds great, but what do you mean, who are we? Who are we? And you almost have to break down every word to its meaning. As an English major, I'm a word guy. I always study the root meaning of words. And who is so connected to your why. Who you are is why you are. Why do you exist? You know, when I ran the review for Zaxby's, the first question my client wanted to know, great guy, Joel Bolger, was why do you exist? That was the first question on the RFP. Why do you exist? And Coca-Cola is very much the same way. They're into the why. You know, a lot of people have fancy businessy words for that, like purpose and mission. You know, I'm a real word, real person guy. Just tell me why you exist. I don't need to know your purpose. That's a little too heavy for me. Or your mission. You know, we're not in the business of missions. Those are missionaries. Those are Jesuits. We're in the business of business. So tell me why your business exists. Let's be human beings here. Okay.
Absolutely. Well, let's get to your deck because you have some really interesting content. I know
Cool.
everyone wants to see it. So we'll dive into the deck now.
I'm sure we'll have questions too. So
Yep.
Let's see if we can fly through. So that's a perfect entree segue into why. So how do you get to a why positioning? And this is probably more relevant to service businesses than a beer, but it does apply to actual things, brands. But you know, a lot of people say, well, that doesn't apply to my brand, but it might not. You know, I'm not a never always guy. I'm not someone who says never always. I used to say always be flexible until a client said you're too flexible, and then I became less flexible. But so why the why? I think the most important thing your positioning can accomplish is that you make an emotional connection first. Second is an intellectual connection. But the emotion comes first. Next is your market differentiation. That's your why. And why it enables engagement. Everyone talks about the single biggest metric in social is engagement, right? Well, how do you enable engagement? It communicates your value, why you charge money for what you do. And I think since design is so important, it makes design more intuitive. And finally, it really justifies your fee. Okay, thanks, Marion. But really, why? Well, it provides a filter that all your stuff can pass through. You need the filter, you know, the lens. And it creates this golden thread that you can weave through all your assets, your processes, your briefs, your systems can all pass through that filter of your why. And what isn't different? What is a brand positioning not? Okay, let's start with what it isn't. And it's saying and you see this on websites everywhere. You know, unlike most companies, we don't. That's not a positioning. What you're not. Calling yourself an expert. I let you use the word twice already, Amanda. I don't like the word. Anytime someone on LinkedIn reaches out to me and it says, oh, expert at this, I delete. I don't want to be connected to experts. I want to be connected to specialists. I want to be connected to students. What makes somebody an expert, but they study a discipline? I want to know students. I want to know people that, I want to be connected to people who have a vocation. Those are not experts. And differentiation is not focusing on your competition. No, it's what you bring to the party. Okay, thank you. And it's not a process. It's not a rally cry. It's not a place. It's not people. You know, I ask a lot of people, what makes your agency special? They say, oh, our people. Like everyone says that to the point where it feels like everyone says they have great people. And whether they are or not, it's subjective anyway. Products, cookie cutter solutions, offerings, widgets, techniques, disciplines, those are not positions. Creativity is not a position, and nobody champions creativity more than I do for 31 years. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not one bit simpler. This guy was not a smart guy. He was dumb enough to be a genius. Okay, thanks. So what is positioning? You know, when Johnny Appleseed named himself Johnny Appleseed, he had pretty strong position there. He was really Johnny Smith. And so I ran you through this already. Who are you? What makes you different? What does that mean to your clients and prospects? If you do that, if you have that meeting every Monday morning for a month, you'll get to an ownable positioning, in your words, Amanda. This is the mother of all positioning exercises. It's Jim Collins' Good to Great. I met Mr. Collins once at a convention, and I told him his book changed my life. Thank you. Oh, it's time for the musical interlude. So we're going to get right to it. Okay, that's enough of that. I love accordion music, but let's just go to the next slide. It'll explain the chicken dance. So, you know, I've done so much work in fried chicken that I'm proud of it. Zaxby's, Church's, Bojangles. I've run reviews for a lot of fried chicken companies. And once a client said to me, Mike, there's 10 ways to sell fried chicken. And I know them all. Now you introduce me to the agency that comes up with number 11, and they're hired. And I'm not going to say who that man was, but I learned a lot. So there are kind of 10 strategies, 10 positions, 2 for 1, more for less, new and improved. Don't forget that one. Taste better, better for you, limited time only, on a mission, small batch like mommy used to make, and it tastes like chicken. So I believe there are 10 brand positions for service companies, and they are specialist expert, fiercely independent, worldwide, small, intimate, you know, we can fit our company in a taxi, value premium, big agency talent for mid-agency prices, nimble, agile, faster than the speed of business, challenger brands, we make emotional connections, retail, sorry, I should have changed that to stuff, and empathy. So it's not the position you take, it's how you communicate it. So let's go to the next slide. And I mentioned an infographic. Here's a company in Greenville, South Carolina. I helped reposition them. I think design reflects your position. They happen to be premium brand focused. That's their position. Luxury brands, we renamed it to connoisseur brands. We can go to the next one quickly. Here's a great agency in Knoxville, maybe the best agency in the Southeast. This is their position. Let's go to the next one. Here's an agency in Portland, Maine. Just examples of how an infographic, you asked me about the toolbox, can reflect your position. Okay, next. If you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. I have a 3-year-old, and it's really taught me to communicate better, because you have to really distill things to their basics. And that was in 20 minutes, as quickly as I can run through it. If anyone has any questions, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. I'm glad.
I think we have some time for questions too now, Mike. Good. So yeah, so you really ran through that really quickly. And I like the fried chicken analogy, because I think it's true, you know, sometimes simple is better. And there's definitely a list, right, of ways that has been done before that you've seen. So
yeah, I think the key point, Amanda, is like, you can't invent a position that doesn't exist. I mean, they've all been taken. I mean, Chaucer said, there's nothing new under the sun. It's how do you communicate that position in real people terms, in English or whatever your language is, that doesn't feel businessy, like, you know, doesn't feel like you're selling me some corporate position. So I think that's the key. And sure, let's run through. If there's anyone left, if I haven't run, if I haven't ran everybody off, I'm
we
happy.
have one question that's come through, but to your point, that's what we're talking about, ownable. Like, it has to be authentic, it has to be ownable, it has to be something too that your team can buy into, right? That's yours and that you
Yeah,
can own. So the
yeah,
first
it
question,
has to be. It has to be authentic.
yep,
Yes.
yep. The first question, Mike, is should the tagline explain the why?
Can the excuse
Should
me?
the tagline explain the
Yeah,
why?
I'm a big tagline guy. In fact, I really believe that most pitches are 1 and 7 words or less, and who can nail the brand's why, and that often becomes a tagline. Yes, it does. Um, my Colin said a great thing about a BHAG. A BHAG was your big, hairy, audacious goal. And I find BHAGs really work well as taglines. Your big goal in the world is a great tagline. Good question.
Do we have any other questions? That's the only one I've seen come through so far. Marion, is it possible to unmute people so they can ask themselves?
Yes, everyone has the ability to unmute. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So I have a question, Mike. Mine is around, okay, so you go through the exercise of the why and kind of identifying what you can authentically own. Once you've kind of identified what your brand position is, what's next? What's that next step?
Yeah, I think you build out your assets that, again, setting up the filter or the golden thread that can be woven through your stuff, your website, your video. We kind of glossed over the video part. People say, what makes a good company video? And it's not a video about your company. It's a video about your why. You're not promoting your company in your company's video. And I like your video being bang, smack dab in the middle of your landing page on your website. Let people click on it. They can unmute it if they want, so they don't have to hear it on mobile. But your video and your infographic are the 2 first things that you can apply to your new positioning, your why. And your website should reflect it. And the first 2 things people should see on your website are your company video and below it, your company infographic. Not a single word needs to be, well, your infographic is going to have a few words on it. But remember, the average time most of your prospects spend on your website is about 1 minute and 18 seconds. We actually did a study. And they don't have a lot of time to read a lot of stuff, but they will click on a video and they certainly will click on an infographic.
Mike, something that we often hear from our partners is, or being redundant, how many times do we need to share a brand message? And, back in the day, we'd say 3 times, but now it's upwards of over 7. And I would imagine during this pandemic, it's even more. Do you have any recommendations as far as, how do you cut through the noise and how much you need to share?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, especially now, like I'm getting, 25% more emails minimum on weekdays. What I'm amazed at is how many more weekend emails I get. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and it's either a pandemic message, we're here for you, we're all in this together, or it's completely tone deaf. Like, I got one from a men's clothing company today for, $400 pajamas. Like I'm gonna, I shop at Old Navy, but the messaging is just brutal right now, and it's tough to stand out. I wish I had like a magic trick, but I think there's a fine line between banging your prospects over the head with your content and providing valuable content that they want to engage with. It's tough. I wish I had a secret tip for that, but I don't. I'm trying to figure it out.
Any other questions from anyone that's on the webinar?
Bueller?
Well, I just want to say, Mike, this is always a pleasure. I always learn something when we talk, and it is a difficult time that we're living in, but I think that it's a unique opportunity for us all to look at our brand position, to with our partners and our clients, to identify how we can help them with their brand positioning and to cut through the noise. And I think it's kind of trial and error and testing a lot, but definitely I think listening and learning and not being tone deaf are great pieces of advice. So.
Yeah. Hey, final words. Hang tough. Hang tough. We're going to get through this. I don't know when. I don't know how. I don't think it'll ever be normal again. I think we've all learned so much over the last 6 months. But I think it's important to know that it's time for not just service industries to reposition, but it's time for all brands to consider a reposition moving forward in the future. I wish you all the best of luck. Thanks for your interest and your attention span. And Amanda, thank you, and Marion at the partnership, thank you so much for having me. What I love the most about the partnership is that you were born as a design firm and you became much more than that. Now you're in the business of solutions. But I have a soft spot in my heart for companies born as design firms. And
well, thank you, Mike. We really appreciate your time today. And do you want to leave your contact details for everyone so that they can reach out to you?
Sure. Yeah. I'm on LinkedIn as Mike Palma, Palma. My email is Palma, Palma @mikepalma.com. And my website is obviously mikepalma.com. I don't know how many times I can say Mike Palma with a straight face.
Well, Mike Palma, we appreciate it.
Third person, Mike Palma.
I hope everyone has a great Labor Day weekend. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll continue to schedule these webinars over the coming months so we can provide resources and education. Thank you.
Have a great holiday weekend,
Thank
Amanda.
you.
Thanks.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.